Hello and welcome back to another video. To be honest, I'm a little bit off schedule this week. This week's video was supposed to be a little tour inside my series Bible, which I spoke about a couple of weeks ago when I gave you a tour of my second brain. If you haven't seen that video, I'm going to leave a link to that video up in the cards. But I did realise that Camp Nano isn't actually over, and seeing as my series Bible is my Camp Nano project, I didn't see the point in giving you that tour as if I'd already finished it when there's still a few days left. As I'm filming this, it's Saturday, so there's about four days left of camp. So that will be next week's video. So don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss that video, because you're not going to want to miss it. It's awesome, if I do say so myself. But on with today's video. So this video has been brought forward a week. As I said, this is my August TBR reading list and going over what I read in July. I'm going to be honest, I've been in a bit of a reading slump. I don't know if that's because I've been concentrating on other things, business related things, coming to the end of the school year. It's been a bit hectic at work and things. So I kind of couldn't get into the books I said I was going to be reading in July, so I kind of put them to one side for the moment. But yeah, I do intend to go back to them, so I will bring them into another TBR reading video later in the year probably. But yeah, I just couldn't get into either of them. Slow Productivity is still sitting on my bedside table. I'm barely quarter of the way through. I didn't get very far with that at all, but I just couldn't concentrate, so there was no point in carrying on with that. I will bring you those videos and those books later in the year. I did, however, find a few books that did grab my interest. So the first book that grabbed my interest was a book called Eagles Fall by L.R. Schultz. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And this kind of happened, I happened across this on my Instagram feed really unexpectedly. He was looking for ARC readers for his novella, for his Bonds of Kin series. Now, I've never read... this is a first time author for me. I've never read any of his books, didn't know they even existed. They were not even on my radar. But I saw this book and read the blurb, and I just kind of thought, I've got to read this book. And the fact that, I suppose the fact that it was a novella kind of appealed, because obviously with the reading slump I was going through, I didn't want to get into a massive novel or anything, or even a series. However, this book grabbed me from the first few pages. It was awesome. It sets up politics in the world really well, and you can tell there's two factions straight away that are kind of having this friction between the two of them. And Ward, the main character, is stuck in the middle. He's stuck in the middle. On one side, he's kind of torn between loyalty to his faction and then love as well, because he's fallen in love with someone on the other side. I really do think this is an excellent book, and it has grabbed me for the rest of the series. I will be reading the Bonds of Kin series now, because the ending of this novella just made me want to read more. So yeah, I have commitments for August with a couple of ARC reads I'm going to talk about in a little while. But after that's gone, after I've finished reading The Rising Storm, my own book for my own Viking Saga series, I will be branching out into a bit more fantasy books. There's a few fantasy books on my TBR list that I really want to get into, but haven't had the time. So I highly recommend this novella, and then hopefully I will be able to recommend to you the rest of the series as well at a later date. So before I continue, I just want to pause and thank everyone who has downloaded or read Lessons in Love. I really appreciate everybody who has supported me on my own writing journey. If you have read Lessons in Love, I would really appreciate you taking 5 minutes out of your day to just leave a rating or a review. Just a one sentence review will be fine. It doesn't have to be an essay or anything like that. I'm not expecting that. It would be amazing if you could leave it on Amazon and Goodreads, but I understand if there's any, you don't want to do both of those, that's absolutely fine. But yeah, I would really appreciate a review if you have read it. So thank you in advance. So the next book that I read is more of a non-fiction book. It was The Powerful Publicity Prescription by Lillian Sue, and she talks about PR for authors. In that book, she breaks down the myths of PR. She gives us an overview of what PR is and how it can help indie authors in particular. And yeah, it was a really good read, really interesting read actually, because I always had a very blinkered view as to what PR was, mostly because you hear about PR companies working with film stars and things like that, so I didn't see how it could apply to an indie author. But actually reading that book, she does break down how it can apply to us as well, which I thought was really interesting. She's also got a lot of mindset tips in that book as well, which I found very applicable to my own situation and where I am right now with my author career. So again, it was a really interesting read. She gives some good solid examples as well of people that she's worked with and experiences she's had. So that again was another good aspect of the book as well. So I really highly recommend The Powerful Publicity Prescription by Lillian Sue as well. On to the books that I intend to read for August. I've been reading a lot of productivity books, which have been great, which have been awesome. They've given me a lot of tips about productivity. However, it occurred to me that probably because I'm about to start writing my third Viking book, that I haven't really read a lot about the writing craft. So I'm going to try to change that. And I'm going to be reading Outlining Your Novel, Map Your Way to Success by K.M. Weiland. I have heard of her, I know of her work, but I have never read any of her books. I've started following her on social media. She brings up some really good points on there. So I'm thinking, oh, you know, this might be a really good, interesting book for me to read as well. I've also found her podcast, which I've started listening to, which again brings up some really good points. So I'm hoping that reading that book will help me to approach this third book in ways that I haven't tried before, which might be quite an interesting thing to do. So yeah, I'm going to be reading that. I'm also going to be reading a couple of ARC books, which I mentioned earlier in the video. So the first ARC book that I will be reading is called A Sparrow Among Stars by Sarah Puesiger. I will leave her name down below with the link to her book. This book is out in August, and I will be getting her ARC book on the 28th of July, so tomorrow. So by the time this video comes out, I will hopefully have started reading this book. So that's great. Again, this was another one that popped up just like the L.R. Schultz book. It just popped up unexpectedly one day on my Instagram. She was asking for ARCs. I looked into her Instagram. I will leave her Instagram below as well. And it looked like a really interesting book. And it's a bit romantasy, so I haven't read a lot of romantasy. I prefer fantasy, or in the past, I've always preferred fantasy. But there's something about this book that kind of drags me in a little bit. So I'm like, you know, give it a go. Expand my reading horizons, as they say. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. And the next book that I will be reading as an ARC is Firefox by Amanda Sluthak, who, again, I will leave her Instagram down below. She's my CP partner. I've seen this book in its very early stages, so I'm really intrigued to see how this book has developed once, you know, now that it's gone through editing and everything. And she's going to be really releasing this book on 20th of September. It is available for pre-order. I think A Sparrow Among Stars is also available for pre-order. I will leave those links down below so you can go and check those books out. So yeah, I've not been an ARC reader before, not very often anyway. So I'm trying to do that a little bit more. Support the indie authors, get the word out about us all on my YouTube channel as well. In September, I will be following up with Firefox once that's released, and I will be following up with A Sparrow Among Stars probably next month, because that will be released in August. So you'll hear my thoughts about both of those in upcoming videos. I'm really excited about what's on my reading list. What's on your reading list? Let me know in the comments and we can have a chat. I can hopefully add some more books to my TBR list. Hopefully through my reading you can add some books to your TBR list. But in the meantime, if you want to check out my Second Brain video, which talks about my series Bible, you can check that out here. And if you want to see my Camp Nano plans, you can check that out here. That will fill you in on what my plans are for, you know, the Viking series, the Viking saga, what my plans are for my series Bible, and then next week I will be back with a tour of my series Bible, so I will follow that up and give that a nice bookend of July, really. Okay, so until next week, I will see you later. Have a good week.